Hello and welcome to Perspectives. I'm your host, Dr. Rondrick Williamson. Listen, the topic we're going to discuss today is one that's not very often discussed in the media. It's domestic violence. But if you look at the numbers, 1.3 million women are affected by domestic violence each year. It's not only confined to women, but men as well. So today our guest is Janie Deadwyler with Angels in Distress, who's going to give us some more insight on domestic violence. Welcome, Miss Janie. We're glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Williamson.
Tell us a little bit about Angels in Distress. What is the organization all about?
Well, Angels in Distress Incorporated Transition from Domestic Violence was founded in 2002. It came out of my own personal experience of domestic violence.
Okay.
And right now we provide training and awareness and prevention of domestic abuse in different areas and organizations and things of that nature. However, my ultimate goal is to have a facility to concentrate on professional women and men. And we do not discount the fact that men are abused. They just don't report it as much as women.
Let's stop right there for a second. Why do you think that is so not as reported as women? You think is an ego issue with men, or what do you think it is?
Big ego.
Right.
Now, men in particular are the breadwinners. They're the strong tower, right? So they are not going to go to their brethren and say, my wife is abusing me, or my girlfriend is abusing me.
Right.
It's just not going to happen that way. So a lot of times they'll just keep it amongst themselves or keep it within themselves. However, what happens with this, when you have a man that's being abused and you know he's that nice guy, and then you see the police cars, the SWAT, the helicopter and all those things, you wonder what happened to Harry.
Right.
And he has this explosive encounter.
Right.
Takes out the family,
Right.
takes out the children, because he's been carrying this quiet storm with him all this time.
Now, before we get deep into domestic violence, let me ask this question. Now, I was on your website, and I saw that you have a talk radio blog. Now, I'm going to get back to domestic violence issues, but I was really intrigued by your show on last evening. Is that something that runs every week? Is it on Thursdays? Yes,
the Blog Talk Radio show is on every Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I basically do a training class for an hour. From time to time, I am blessed to have special guests on the show with me. But basically, I'm just doing training, what I would normally do in my presentations when I'm out.
Now, tell us a little bit about your background. Now, you worked for the Atlanta Police Department. I researched you. I looked you up, sister.
You did.
You were a dispatcher, am I correct?
Yes, I was. 21 years ago now. I retired after 19. I started out as a 911 dispatcher where I served the public, answering emergency 911 calls. I did it very well. And oftentimes we would receive calls where there were victims of domestic violence calling on the line, and I would often want to ask them, why are you still there? You know, however, little did I know 15 years later I would be making that call. And the irony of it all is because I was the domestic violence instructor for the police department. So that was a rude awakening for me, to say the least.
So did that play a big part in you starting the Angels in Distress organization?
Absolutely. Dr. Williamson, once I went through my embarrassment, my shame, my disappointment, my disbelief that it happened to me, God said to me, you have everything you need to go into the community and educate them in this area. And he also gave me another revelation. And a lot of people don't like to hear it, but this is a spirit that's operating in the community, and a lot of people don't hear it from that perspective. However, a lot of the other organizations are dealing with it with a carnal mind and not dealing with it from how deep it really goes into a person, because it really affects a person's spirit. Right. You know?
Right. Now let's go back. Something you talked about a little bit before, your experience. Now, I would like my viewers to know what actually happened. If you would share with us, we love that.
Okay. I was in a relationship. My youngest had gone off to college, and I was happy. It's my turn, okay? And I met this brother, and it was very interesting. He was very intelligent, very handy, a knight in shining armor, all of that stuff that we'll told when we were little girls.
That you should look for.
That you should look
Right.
for the knight in shining armor, and Prince Charming's going to come in on the white horse, okay? However, he turned into a monster. And I tell people in my training that the big bad wolf in grandma's bed, he's real, okay? I found myself in a relationship that turned into a nightmare rather quickly. And it caught me by surprise because it was in my world, in my house, where it occurred. You know, I probably wouldn't have thought about it too much because if it had been in some other place, but in my house it happened.
It makes it a little different.
Yes.
When you're going through the situation.
And it was total violation of my space, shall we say. However, this is what I did. I first had to repent, okay? I'm just going to keep it real.
Yeah, we want to be honest.
I had to repent because I was out of order,
Right.
okay? And I prayed and I said, Father God, if you help me out of this situation, trust me, I won't do it my way again. And I prayed, and he literally showed me how to get out of that relationship through a dream. And I followed that dream to the very end, even to it manifesting in helicopters over my house and things of that nature. Yeah, it was dramatic. And I'm a very private person, so that was a bit embarrassing for that to even happen. But it had to play out that way for me to go from misery to ministry, you know?
Wow.
So I'm a big woman. I'm not a little woman. But for me to be tossed across the room like a little rag doll, yeah, that was an eye-opener, to say the least. And then to be put in a position where the gentleman tried to threaten my career. He came on my job, and I went through the whole process of, you know, of him coming on my job and manipulating and controlling me in that area and telling me that if I told anybody that he would embarrass me right there and he would make me lose my job. So I'm trying to dance around all of this stuff, you know, because my career is important to me. So I'm doing everything I can to keep it low key, okay? However, in keeping it low key, nobody knows what's going on with me, you know? One of the biggest things that hurt me the most is that I had to become estranged from my son, from my children. And I had to do it because of the threat that was made against my son. So as a mother, I'm going to do everything I can to protect my child. And once I got that relationship estranged, then I was able to go ahead and carry out the things that I needed to do.
Wow.
However, I can look back now and say honestly that I ignored the red flags that I teach about.
Now, one thing I found very interesting, your organization caters to professional women.
Yes.
Now, I know a lot of times we think that situations and things will never happen to us. Now, the question I really want to ask is, does domestic violence discriminate?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Domestic abuse is in every socioeconomic background, you know, from the poorest to the most affluent. It's there all the time. There are a few names that I could call off right now, but I won't. But we know of them. We've heard of them in the news. So it's all about who gets the good service. You know what I'm saying? To help them heal and move on in their lives. And oftentimes in the media, things are played out in bits and pieces, and you don't have the whole story. So you never really know where these, shall we say, these tragedies stem from. But I guarantee you, if you were to pull the records from the 911 centers, the abuse started years before.
But you know, if you were to read an article or a blog or what have you on domestic violence, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that there's physical abuse. But I'm tending to believe that there's more to domestic violence than just physical abuse, that it doesn't necessarily always have to be physical abuse, that it could be maybe mental or emotional abuse.
Emotional abuse is the glue that holds all of the others together. And the reason being because, let's use you for instance. I don't know whether you're married or you're single or you're engaged or whatever, but think about it. Once you become emotionally attached to somebody, you don't make decisions as clear conscience as you normally would
Right.
have because of your emotions are attached. And this is how this enemy comes in and operates. Once they have you emotionally attached, then they try the others, okay? And a lot of times people want to ask the question, well, why won't she leave? Or why does he take that from her? It's because they're emotionally attached to these people. And then this opens the door for the psychological abuse to start because, you know, once you're beat down emotionally, your mind starts to play tricks on you. You know, well, what did I do?
Right.
What did I do to deserve this? You did absolutely nothing to deserve it. I don't care what type of abuse you're going through, you do not deserve it. So once this emotional situation comes into play, then the mental, the psychological, and then, God forbid, the physical comes into play. But it's that emotional bond that this spirit operates in.
So do you think that, you know, there's women out there who are actually being abused, but they stay in the situation? Is it because they're, quote unquote, comfortable with the situation, or is because the person they might have been with for years and years is their comfort zone, or they're familiar with it and they just don't want to detach themselves from that? Or what is the issue, the underlying issue that keeps many women in those situations?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Finances, status quo,
Right.
children. Children are big because in a relationship, if you're married, you want the children to have two parents, right? So children are big. If you have been in an abusive relationship growing up, and then you're saying, well, it's not going to happen in my house, but you end up in it, then you hear your parents or you hear your relatives saying, well, I told you not to marry him in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're trying to make it work. And women naturally are nurturers. We feel like we can fix people. We can fix things. We think that's what we do, but you can't fix this.
Right.
You cannot fix this. This is something that goes way beyond your capabilities. So it's not that people won't leave. There are barriers to people why they don't leave.
Right.
The police can be barriers. You call for help once and you may get an officer who may say to you, well, I see why he hit you because you talk too much. You know what I'm saying? I've had a client tell me that. Or you may have children that are in a situation where they're going to school and they can't study properly, you know what I'm saying? And the teacher's calling constantly and you're trying to make it look like it's okay. So you're bringing Johnny home and you're trying to deal with Johnny, but Johnny is hearing his parents fuss and fight all night long. Johnny can't sit in class and learn because he's so nervous. So there are a lot of underlying issues, and it's not about just leaving because that's a very dangerous time too.
Right. There are a couple things I want to touch on right quickly. I asked the question this morning to some of my Facebook followers and some of my followers on Twitter. The question I posed was, is domestic violence a learned behavior? And most of the followers said that they think it is a learned behavior. What do you think about that? I thought it was interesting that, and I posed the question, and my followers are across the board, women, men, whites, black, of all races. And so they seem to come back to the same answer that yes, it is a learned behavior.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is a learned behavior. Excuse me. Say for instance, excuse me, the formative years, 1 to 5 in your household. We're just saying hypothetically in your household. And your son or your daughter, they are women batterers as well. For 5 years, this is all they hear, this is all they see. So this is normal in their household, right?
Right.
So this is how they will grow up thinking that things are to be normal.
Right.
As I was sharing earlier, and if you meet somebody whose household they sat around the table and they discuss things, and let's talk these things out, well, you become frustrated because you want to throw some stuff.
Right.
Preferably the person. You want to throw them across the room. So there's going to be conflict there because you have different coping skills. So these children who are exposed, that's why it's so important. Let me go back. That's why it's so important that if they're in an abusive relationship, they really need to get the children out of it because it just keeps the cycle going.
And one of the Twitter followers said that you live what you know.
Absolutely.
So that goes hand in hand with what you just said.
Absolutely.
But a follow-up question to that, do you find that domestic violence abusers are individuals who are in corporate America who portray themselves as one way in the workplace, but when they come home, they're somebody different. And when I watched your show on your website, you talked about, or there was a situation where if the man was at work and he was uncomfortable or disagreed with his boss, how would he react?
Absolutely.
He would react totally differently than he would react if he got home and had a disagreement with his wife.
Here is what people want to say or project, that a batterer has no control. Why he beats his wife, or why he beats his girlfriend, or why she beats her boyfriend, or why she beats her husband. Yes, you do. Because if the boss on the job tell you to do something and you don't like it, what do? You may muff,
right,
but you going off and do it. You don't turn around and batter your boss.
Right.
So that shows what? Control. So you have control. So how is it that when you get home, you lose control?
Right.
You know, that's neither here or there. So it again is not about control. It's about controlling the victim.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow. So, Ms. Janie, what are some things that viewers who may be watching today can pick up on to let them know that there may be or possibly be an abusive relationship?
Jealousy is not cute. You know, some women think, oh, girl, my man, he's so jealous of me. You know, I can't even walk out the room without him being jealous. That is not cute.
But can't jealousy be, I mean, I'm sure there can be several different levels of jealousy.
Jealousy is not cute.
Okay, altogether it's just
jealousy
not cute.
is a red flag, waving,
okay.
Because jealousy lets you know that there's insecurity somewhere. And if you are in a relationship with somebody and you all have set the tone of trust, then jealousy has no room. Jealousy has no room, okay? Being possessive, or this is key, isolation. Let me mention isolation. You've had friends, Dr. Williamson, that for 20 years after college, every Thursday, you guys go to Dave and Buster, right? They've been in your life for 20 years.
Right.
And you meet a young lady, and she come into your life, and every last one of those friends, there's a problem with them. Red flag. There's something wrong with that picture, okay? The same thing for the women. You've had friends in your life. You all have been going to the movies, but he finds problem with all of your girlfriends. Something's wrong with that picture because that's isolating you. So how is it that a person, a stranger pretty much, that comes into your life is now going to tell you that the friends that you've had for almost a lifetime in your life are not worthy of them being in your company? So that doesn't make sense. Right. Also, the big thing now is texting. You know, where are you? What are you doing? That's harassment. You know, that is not cute. He wants to know every move I make. Yeah. So that he can keep up with everything you do.
Ladies, did you just hear that? Say that again. That's not cute.
That's not cute.
That's not cute.
It's not cute at all. For the fellas, she's showing up on your job.
That's not cute.
That's not cute.
Guys, that's not cute.
That's not cute. That's your workplace.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Her ringing your doorbell. You know, you're talking to her on the phone, and before you hang up good, she's ringing the doorbell. That is not cute.
So those are all things that you should be cognizant of and say, like, wait a minute now, this is something I should
pay attention to. And there's things that we just usually just look over, you know. Also, it is what it is. If you're out to dinner, it's dinner. It's not on the on the rug in the winter in front of a crackling fire. Right. This is dinner right here, right now. Stay right here. Stay right here. Fellas, just because she cook you a meal, it's just a meal. That's all it is. She's not maybe the one to be your wife. It's just a meal. There's a lot of things that we pass information along to each other early on in the relationship that we need to keep to ourselves. Right. I tell women, keep your mouth closed. You talk too much. Okay, because men are information seekers, nothing against the brethren. Yeah, but men are information seekers. Yeah, so, and the question that comes out of their mouth more often than not is, what type of man you like?
Well, that's not a bad thing all the time.
However, it's not a good thing either, early on in the relationship. Because if it's a perpetrator, you're giving him a laundry list.
Right, of course.
And women do the same thing to the men. What type of woman you looking for?
So you're saying they're just going to present themselves as that person to snatch you.
Always remember.
And then once they've got you, they got you.
Always remember, the representative is showing up.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
For at least 3, 6, 9, 12, sometimes 18 months.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this question. Do you think that many abusers actually think they're abused because of something they did wrong? Do they blame themselves?
Here is the question I ask that many people don't ask. What happened to them? What happened to them? Something happened in their lives when they were either young or adolescent, preteen, or whatever, where they felt they had no power and no control. What happened? But you don't hear that question asked of the abuser. Something happened to them.
Wow. Now, in your experience, do you find, I know we talked about reasons why victims don't leave, but do you find that most women in these situations wait until it's absolutely too late to get out?
Unfortunately, and that's sometimes when it ends in death. You know what I'm saying? Again, I go back to what I said earlier. You cannot fix this. You can't fix this. A person like this has to fix themselves. They have to go through the counseling. They have to go through the self-awareness. They have to go through the self-analysis of themselves. They have to go back through their own traumas and heal themselves. You can't fix that. You know, you just can't fix it. They have to fix it.
Well, I want to ask this question, which may be totally off of what we were just talking about. I really want to know how many fellas actually, or how many guys actually present themselves as victims, and why is it that the male, we really never hear about what happens if a male is being abused by a female? Well,
the reason why you don't hear it, there is this hormone that guys have, that men have, called testosterone, you know, that makes them the manly man. And it goes back to not only ego, but there's shame. The same shame that a woman goes through, a man would go through as well. You know, of his wife, the one that he thought was the apple of his eye, and the day that he married her, the night that they consummated the marriage, she turned into the Wicked Witch of the West. You know, it happens. So we have to understand that in both sides of the fence, whether it's male or female, if the male is being abused, though, this is what mostly comes out. It's emotional and verbal abuse. You know, a woman talking a man down, you know, talking down to the man, or pitting the children against him so that he can't see the children, things of that nature, more so than the physical abuse as it is with the men to the women.
So for someone in a situation where they're being abused, what steps should they take to get out of the situation? I know if you were to abruptly leave, sometimes that makes it even worse, but what steps should they take? Should they be, you know, planned strategically in order to get out of the situation, or what should they really do?
Yes, because there are things that you need to have in place if you're going to make this move. First of all, you need to make a safety plan. You need to make a safety plan. And the safety plan will cover things that you're going to need if you have to immediately leave, okay? Birth certificates, driver's license, insurance policies, change, money for making calls, things of that nature, documents, deeds to your home, registration for your car, you know, things that you really need to prove who you are, you know, those type of things. So you'll need to put those things in place, and that's for a man as well. He needs to get those same things in place. Also, the first thing you need to do is tell somebody. Tell somebody. Because as long as you keep this secret a secret, it grows and it grows and it grows into a bigger monster.
Right. Now, do you think that some ladies feel that the behavior is normal behavior? Have you seen that happen before?
If they were reared in an abusive environment,
they would tend to think that
that's
it was
normal.
okay.
Yeah, that it's okay. I had the experience of watching this gentleman talk to a little teen. She looked like she was about 10 years old. And there was something that she wanted. They were at the flea market, and there was something that she wanted. And I mean, he just started really just talking real ugly, I mean real ugly, graphically ugly to her. And I looked at this child's body language, how she just slumped down. And now this was supposed to be her dad, and how her body language just slumped down, and she just looked at him, you know, just totally nebulous about why would he talk to me about this, like this, for something that I want out of the store. So if she's being talked to that way by her dad, it's normal for a man to treat her that way, because she doesn't know differently.
So it kind of all boils down to your upbringing, or like the comment was made on Twitter, you live what you were accustomed to, so to speak.
Exactly, it's environment. It's environment.
But we're going to go to break again, but when we come back, we want you to prepare some comments to speak directly to some victims who may be out there who are afraid to come forward. So we're going to get to that when we come back. You don't want to miss this last segment. We'll be right back.
Are you overwhelmed with vitamins? Do you have so many supplements that you have actually forgotten why you take some of them? Are you not getting the results you want from your new supplement program? Hi, at Scott's Pharmacy, we are extensively trained in vitamins, minerals, and herbal products. We are also experts at medications, various disease states, and drug-nutrient interactions. So no matter what your issues, blood pressure, diabetes to hair loss, we can help. Stop by Scott's Pharmacy for a consultation and start looking better, feeling better, and being better.
So Janie, as we end this segment, I want you to speak directly to the viewers to address victims who may be out there who may be afraid of coming forth. What would you have to say to them on today?
I would like to say, Dr. Williamson, to whomever it is, whether they're male or female, tell somebody. Please tell somebody. Do not keep carrying this secret alone, because there is help out there for you. As a matter of fact, our website, which is www.angelsindistress.org, is a place of resources and information for anyone that is in an abusive relationship. Secondly, I want to say to the women who may be sitting in a room saying to themselves, I only have $8 in my pocket. I have 3 children. Where am I going to go? This is what I say to you. Just go. Provisions will be made for you. There is help out there for you. There is housing out there for you. There is food. There is transportation for you. There is help. So you do not have to go through this alone. There are people that will walk literally with you through this process. For the brethren, there are organizations out there that will help them as well. You know, do not go through that shame by yourself. You know, you can come out of it. And then mainly I want to say is that there is life after domestic violence.
Janie, we want to thank you for being a part of Perspectives on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We've learned a great amount of information, and I think we've inspired somebody on today.
I pray so.
Listen, viewers, we hope that you've learned a lot from this episode on today. Domestic violence is a very serious topic that needed to be discussed. We thank you for tuning in with us on today. To learn more about domestic violence, visit angelsindistress.org. Listen, you can always visit perspectivetv.com to find out more information about Perspectives. Also, if you're on Facebook or if you're on Twitter, follow me. Wonderful information. Listen, you've been watching Perspectives, where you're not only informed, but inspired. We'll see you next week. Be blessed.